when obviously, I mean, we only make up 13% of the population. White America makes up, basically almost 70% of the population. So it's obvious that they should have more crime and murder than we do, but they're trying to make it like we are super violent when the numbers showing clearly that, white America has the problem, or they are the ones who killing more of their people than we are. I mean, that's 2013. You can look at 2014 and you can look at the numbers and it's still the same. White America not only killed more people, but killed more of their own people in 2014 than African Americans killed, of African Americans. But that's not what the news is saying. The news is only reporting about us. And this is the issue that we have, because you got white people walking around thinking that it's just us and, they shit don't stink. And that's clearly not the case here. Another issue was 2015. You had over 300 African Americans be killed by police. So over 100 of those African Americans was unarmed. About 38 of them was unarmed teens. We had about 3 teens get killed every month last year that was unarmed. They got killed by police. So, another issue is you have white America looking at the news constantly, reporting on these teens being killed, black people being shot, and you had some white people march with us and hold up the Black Lives Matter sign and stuff like that, but you still had the majority of white America look at this issue as our problem. We shouldn't be thugs, or we shouldn't be selling drugs, and we simply standing out here like trying to figure out a way to commit a crime, and the cops is just trying to stop us, and these cops are heroes for protecting the community. When, come on, this is what a lot of people was thinking. I mean, I've read the comments. I read those comments on Twitter, these comments that I see on these little internet sites, when you see people arguing about the whole issue, and you read all these racial comments from white people who actually believe that these teens that's being killed, these black people that have been killed, Sandra Bland, all these people that was killed by cops actually was, justified. It was actually our fault that we was killed by these police. Now, they look at those numbers and they say, well, you guys violent and that's why the cops is killing you and this and that. But what they don't realize is last year, 2015, cops killed over 500 white people. And a lot of them was unarmed white people. But you ain't hear about it. They don't know about it. So you had cops kill more white people in 2015 than he did black people. Why isn't it all over the news? Why isn't those stories on the news? Why isn't the stories, from 2014, 2013, all those murders I just showed you, why haven't those cases popped up on TV? What's going on? So you would think that, excuse me, you would think that they would show, all of the murders, the innocent, unarmed white people that was killed by cops on the news as much or even more so than black America. But the reason why they won't show cops killing unarmed white teens, they won't show, they show us dead in the street. They show our teenagers' bodies dead in the street, eyes wide open. Same thing with Mexicans, show their bodies dead in the street. This information, it was put out there. It just kept being talked about on CNN, Black America, Michael Brown, and they just pounded on it and pounded on it. Meanwhile, you had a bunch of white teens be killed last year and nobody said a word. Nobody went to the mom's house. Nobody went to the funeral. Why? Come on. Because they know that if they would cover the killing of white kids as much as they did black kids, then something would change. Because white America would actually come together. They would demand something get done, and it would get done. We don't have that power. And because they don't report on this stuff, because you have to go to the FBI database and, go online and look at the FBI numbers to see actually what's taking place. This is the only way we'll get this information, because they're simply not talking about it, because there is an agenda to destroy the image of African American people, and it's working. And the white people who don't, live in our community and, see what's taking place, they don't get it. They think that, it's the news. Of course, the news is going to tell us the truth. I believe the news before I believe this, this black person. So they don't, white people don't fathom what is taking place. So they're not getting the correct information. So they are believing the stereotype and believing, what this racist, biased media is saying about us. Now, I have a video that I've done called the Hidden Accomplishments of African People. Now, if you are, a white person, if you are Caucasian or whatever you want to be called, you should check that video out, because you need to understand, what we have done on this planet long before America. You need to understand that, we wasn't simply running around naked in the jungle. We wasn't primitive by no means, that we was highly advanced, and that most of the things that you see today, the structure of America, the things like toothpaste and things like chewing gum that we had long before America was even invented. We had invented so many things in Africa that we use still today that we are not given the credit for. So and this is backed up not by us. I mean, this is backed up by not only us, but white scholars as well. And there's a lot of things that you need to see as white people that we have accomplished, so you can stop looking at us as, the help, or as a burden, or as somebody who's just looking for a handout, when, we come from success. We are and have been successful for, centuries in Africa. And it's something that needs to be seen. And the information needs to be, understood by white America, so they can start looking at us differently and understanding that, we want the same things. We're not here trying to just get over on the system. We don't want to be a part of the system. It's survival of the fittest. That is, that's nature. That is your number one human function, is self-preservation. So if you got to take welfare to survive, you're going to do so. If it's going to be hard for you to come out of your situation and get a job and to do better in life, of course you're going to keep getting welfare, because you have to feed your kids, you have to survive, you have to preserve your life. So I think that anybody should be able to look at that and understand that, this is what's taking place. But even more so than that, you have more white people on food stamps than African Americans. That's another fact. So we can't keep stereotyping African Americans based upon, what the media is saying, when the numbers show clearly that the numbers are more so in favor of, white people as far as, these issues than it is African Americans, like what I just pointed out about the crime. But definitely go and watch that video and understand the accomplishments. You can go and check the, fact check and check my sources on what I'm talking about in the video. But I think you should watch that video and really understand, our accomplishments, and see that, it's a lot more to us than just, us being enslaved. So now, basically, when I say that white America alone has the power to fix the racial tension, to fix the issues between African Americans and, the white community, that is obvious, because we don't control lobbyists. We don't have the power to do so. And by you being the majority of the country, the government is more likely to listen to you than to listen to us. And I mean, that's obvious. But the first thing that has to happen is white people have to acknowledge that there is an obvious issue going on, and that African Americans are being unfairly treated. Latinos are being unfairly treated. People of color are being unfairly treated, but not more so than African Americans. And if you are not willing to stand up for what's right, I mean, because we talking about, forget religion, we talk about from a purely moral standpoint of right and wrong. But then, you can't complain about what we do to, protect ourselves and to, get respect in this country. You can't get your research from an obvious, you can't get your definition of African Americans from an obvious racist, biased media. You can't complain about the actions that we take and the things that we do to defend ourselves and to get our point across. So until, white America realizes that it's an obvious race issue in this country, and until white people will stand up and, take action and, do something to put the word out that, this is obviously an issue in America, then things will continue to, you know, be the same. I think Jane Elliott said it best when she did this.
I want every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general treats our citizens, our black citizens. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
And if anybody has seen Jane Elliott's experiments and what she does to try to get white people to understand what we go through, I mean, it's an amazing thing that she does, because, you know, when you watch that, I mean, of course you get it as African American people, but, you know, some white people just don't want to understand. They don't want to get it. They focus more on their own issues that they can, you know, easily fix, but they don't realize that we all have issues. But once we fix our issues, okay, so if you're white, you got money issues, I got money issues, okay, you get money, I get money. At the end of the day, once you get your money, that's it.